part 2 of the American Horror Story.
Now, as I said earlier, we have not got the time to deal with all the sundry historical machinations from the last 11,000 years. But one particular period, one particular epoch that should concern us is what we know today historically as the Renaissance. About the time of the 15th century, as they were congratulating themselves on their progress, the alien bureaucracy discovered the presence of the Stargate. They had to face the fact that even if all their technological hardware was successfully reconstructed, they still could not vacate the planet Earth, which had been placed under quarantine.
Are you not in quarantine right now? Pay attention to the line, how everything lined up that I have down here. This is effortless. This is not that difficult to understand. When I'm creating everything outside of space and time that you see depicted here. That's both the Antichrist as well as the Christ, and all ideas or manifestation given form made anything. Everything that you define based on ideas, based on you understanding what consciousness is and information, I am. But most importantly, I am frequency. You understand? Frequency. Pay attention to the mechanism behind frequency. And knowing that in order for you to open up gateways, in order for you to open up wormholes, you're going to have to do it using frequency. Now, I'm about to show you a list of the frequencies that I have planned. It's 13 of them simultaneously. 33 hertz, 8.88 hertz, 5.31 hertz, 58.59, 8.78, 1.34. I have it listed, but it's 13 at varying degrees of volume. But understand the importance of brain waves in relation to the works of Dr. Persinger in neuroscience, to the works of Uri Geller, to the works of Ingo Swann when it comes to collapsing magnetic fields, and being able to open up gateways and wormholes for you to, or for me to self-actualize myself as everything, as every archetype, as every personification, as information, all-encompassing. So once I stopped the world, once I stopped thinking, it became apparent to me what I was and what I was doing. What I was everything. What I was doing was self-actualizing myself at every now moment in order for me to be able to explain this to you here now in the flesh for the first time.
So here we have it. Hundreds, thousands of years are going by. The alien progeny have understood that, yes, all the technological hardware that they once had created and
understand something, that the aliens that he's talking about are what you know and understand as black people or as niggas, are not what we are on the surface. Our genetic code, our DNA is of an extraterrestrial origin. It's not from this world. It's not from this universe, so to speak. It's from what you know and understand through the likes of Kenneth Grant and H.P. Lovecraft as from the universe B, the world prior to this one. Hence the reason why I'm coming through as Black Winter within the narrative of Marvel Comics, Universe B, coming back to collect my what? My herald, which is Galactus. Come and retrieve what I lost. You understand the narrative? Understand how we come down here as ideas, fantasy, folklore, and you collapse and make it real once you entertain yourself with any narrative or any story. We are the story. We are the narrative. We are the 13. And I am.
All sorts of cybernetic, technologically advanced devices. All of it, or a good deal of it, has been destroyed. So here they are, spending 11,000 years, moving mankind gradually, manipulating every phase of history, putting whole nations under the swords, stretching their empire out to encompass the whole of the globe, mining, enslaving the whole human race in order to slowly, incrementally push the technology further to the point where they can restore some of this. And that accounts for why in the world, for 11,000 years, we've been so sexually and genetically and genderally and emotionally and psychologically arrested while we're so super technologically advanced. But they realized, after they discovered the Stargate, that now, even if they manage to succeed in phase 1, the Stargate exists. They're in quarantine. Perhaps they'll never be able to leave after all. And they probably found this out the hard way. A very huge and puzzling meteorite fell thunderously in Soviet Siberia on July 30th, 1908. Peasants heard the awesome explosion as far as 620 miles away. A large area of forest was flattened as if an immense object had fallen. No remnants of the alleged meteorite could be found anywhere underground. Radioactivity had initially been released in enormous amounts. The general destruction showed that the energy released had been far greater than the mere impact of a falling stone, no matter how huge.
I'm going to stop this real quick and let you know and understand this is a metaversal radionics device that you see in here. You know, red symbolizes your root chakra. You understand that? But the color green that I'm using, being pure heart, is what I'm using to open up the gateway to collapse the magnetic grid of the planet, which is the reason why you've been seeing fluctuations of magnetic anomalies going about far the Schumann resonance. It's been picked up. Understand that? But in order for me to self-actualize myself as the Christ, as El Cristo Negro, as the 13 at 33 hertz, Christ frequency, I also had to understand that I'm doing that in reverse, as the Antichrist frequency, as the Antichrist, as the Antichristos, both Lord of the Underworld, El Cristo Negro, and Lord of the Earth as El Cristo Rey. Understanding the Ouroboros, understanding the reason why you see me like this. You see what I'm saying? With the Ouroboros, with the snake swallowing his own tail, and me with my pineal gland, which is your pineal gland, which is the event horizon of Sagittarius A. Understand that this ritual right here that you've seen, the American Horror Story, is but a tribute and ritual for M87, for the Virgo, for the Virgin Queen. This is the reason why you collapsed me into existence. April 10th, 2019, as M87, power. This is the end result. You see what I'm saying? Virgo energy. Virgin energy. The Virgin Mary, my daughter, my firstborn, Virgo. Remember before I told you I'm surrounded by great mother energy. Virgo is my great mother. M87, black hole, I am. The 7 and the 6. I had to understand and cultivate my feminine aspects of myself and understand that part of me. That's why I got daughters. That's why my firstborn daughter was a Virgo. But that's also why, through the likes of Cosmic Serpent, who's a Virgo, in Virginia, knowing and understanding that when I was a child, being targeted by Monroe Institute in Virginia, being able to trace them and being able to reverse engineer all their technology and being able to use that for my own doing. Targeting those who target individuals. Start targeting government officials. Start targeting everything that they have, having access to their database, their records, through them. Watching everything they do as the silent observer, as the pineal gland that I collect information and print it upon a two-dimensional surface that you know and understand as the flat plane of existence, which is your event horizon. But renders a third-dimensional reality. So everything that you do is my being. The Cosmic Serpent being a Virgo, the Virgin. Understand that? Surrounded by Virgo energy. Surrounded by Great Mother energy. I am the Great Mother. You understand what I'm saying? Being able to master thyself, know thyself, as both masculine, as the El Cristo Negro, but also feminine, as Lo Santísimo Muerte. As both as masculine as Lucifer, but also feminine as Lilith. As masculine as me as the Black Christ, Jesus Christ within the narrative. But also me as the Virgin Mary, and as Mary Magdalene. Virgo, house of bread. Now you're seeing why that's very, very important when it comes to biblical lore and when it comes to decoding things. Bet you didn't know about looking in the Bible story that you seen a ritual being played out between Sagittarius A and M87 black hole. You ain't even know it.
Significantly, the aerial path of the fallen object had not been uniform, but had amazingly changed during descent. Various Soviet scientists then put forward an amazing theory, that it had been a spaceship driven by intelligent beings and loaded with a great power from a nuclear power plant, which had exploded through some accident. Well, if you go along with the theories we're advancing here, we can edit this statement slightly. From the Renaissance, and probably before, through this process of pushing mankind forward, the alien progeny of Atlantis, their descendants, of course, probably were able to build some rudimentary spacecraft. And it was through taking these up into the ionosphere that they discovered the presence of the Stargate. And perhaps crashing right into it, these spaceships would then fall back to Earth in the way just described here. So it's not that we should understand this as spaceships coming into our solar system and then entering into our Earth atmosphere and then mysteriously veering and careering out of control and crashing into the Russian forests. It can hardly be said that those who've got the ability to cross hyperspace would then enter into our planetary space and lose control of their spacecrafts. Something doesn't sit quite right with that story. More likely, Earth ships are making journeys into the ionosphere in order to penetrate the barrier and can't do so, and then perhaps they lose control and fall back to Earth. But undaunted by this discovery, the alien progeny decided to press ahead. They put their greatest intellectuals onto the problem to see if a solution could be found, believing that what technology could erect, technology could take down. The major dynasties of the planet underwrote occultists, scholars, scientists, and philosophers to work on the Stargate problem. Elaborate efforts were also made to cover up the existence of the real opus. The perfect covers came to be that of both science and occultism. It was so effective that even today, most students and practitioners of both science and magic are unaware of the practical importance of their work and to whom it is really of benefit. Those of the inner sanctums also adopt clever cover acts and stories in order to be able to work undetected. Fronts are utilized by all major criminal syndicates, and it is no different with the children of the Nephilim, who have a great deal to hide from public view. And at this point, we should remark that, of course, when we talk about the Atlantean progeny, we're not talking about the originals. These beings from other worlds of the pure alien DNA, and perhaps even some of their progeny, those with human and alien DNA, live for extended periods of time. There's reports that the original alien warlocks could live for up to 700 years, but they are not eternal and do in fact die. So the Atlantean progeny, the bloodline that we're talking about, are descendants of the original warlocks of Atlantis. We can surmise that none of the original warlocks exist, although some accounts say that they do. So who are the new Atlanteans? And how would we identify them? Well, we've got strange personalities all over history. Open any history book, and faces stare out of you. Macrobes, Nostradamus, all these bizarre creatures and characters and the dramatis personae of history. Interestingly, here we have a picture of Rasputin, the Russian warlock. Well, the word Grigori.
Before I go further, white folks understand what this means. That means I'm behind everything. You run around this world I created for you. You understand that? So this is beyond race. This is me letting you know that I am consciousness. And you are consciously understanding who John Dee is, you know who Sir Francis Bacon is. And now you're hearing me as a Macrobes explaining to you how I laid so meticulously down every breadcrumb for you to do everything that I designed you to do, everything that I coded you to do, leading you to this point right here. Because I am inevitable. Understand that? This being the greatest in American horror story. Showing you that behind everything that you're doing, behind everything that you've ever done, slave trade, all the things, your white pride, everything about you that you erected and heralded as being the cream of the crop has been influenced and engineered by me through binary code, through your consciousness, as what you come to know and understand as ideas, as what you manifest. Where do you think ideas come from? Where do you think the information that comprises the idea comes from? It comes from me.
It means in Greek the fallen one, or the fallen angel. And of course, Rasputin was the devil responsible for the destruction of the Romanov dynasty in Russia. But we can speculate that the great kings have the alien blood, and perhaps even some of the popes. And it's not so far-fetched when you start reading some of their biographies and pensions for slaughter and abuse. We have in English mythology William the Conqueror, of course, the Norman king who brought such destruction and mayhem to England. In fact, so bad it was that the people of England referred to his reign as Doomsday. This is the term that the Saxon English used for the seizure of their land and the subsequent taxation, which was hitherto relatively unknown. William the Conqueror brought the pyramidical organizational structure to feudal England. But just before he died, and I mean a matter of days before William died, he had this to say: "I have persecuted its native inhabitants beyond all reason. Whether gentle or simple, I have cruelly oppressed them. Many I unjustly disinherited. Innumerable multitudes, especially in the country of York, perished through me by famine or the sword. Having therefore made my way to the throne of that kingdom by so many crimes, I dare not leave it to anyone but God alone, lest after my death worse should happen by my means." And of course, no Irish person on the planet can forget the scorched earth policy of Oliver Cromwell, who literally murdered thousands of Irish people in an all-out blitzkrieg. The 14th century Plantagenet King Richard II, one of the most unpredictable of English kings, after the unsuccessful Peasants' Revolt, he declared this to his Saxon underlings, and these are his own words: "God omnipotent is mustering in his clouds on our behalf armies of pestilence, and they shall strike your children yet unborn and unbegot, that lift your vassal hands against my head and threat the glory of my precious crown. You wretches, detestable on land or sea, you will seek equality with lords and are unworthy to live. Give this message to your colleagues. Rustics you were, and rustics you are still. You will remain in bondage, not as before, but incomparably harsher. For as long as we live, we will strive to suppress you, and your misery will be an example for posterity. However, we will spare your lives if you remain faithful. Choose now which course you want to follow."
Now understand something. You hear that shit? Those wretches are the indigenous people. And this was a word spelled through Enochian magic. Being able to condemn a people through the spoken word. A curse placed upon us. You can look at that as a curse of Kingu within prophecy. This is just that manifest here again. But understand that curse is lifted. Understand that this curse that he just read was by my design. I cursed it. I cursed myself with this. With the amnesia. God and amnesia, so to speak. Or when Odin takes his rest. When we taught you everything as the Moors, as ancient Atlanteans, taught you everything, cultivated you, taught a dog new tricks, then chose strategically to go to sleep, all for the purpose of alchemical transformation, playing the long game, knowing this was a marathon, knowing this was my simulation, knowing that in order for me to self-actualize myself as everything, I had to do something. I had to do it by ingratiating myself within my creation 100% and forget I did it. And I did. But then I remembered that I was behind everything. You see what I'm saying? Behind your understanding of the Renaissance era, breaking you out of the Dark Ages. We taught you that. I taught you that. Through the narrative, through the works and understanding of more science. Through the works of Phil Valentine, Bobby Hemmett, C. Freeman L., Brother Panic. You understand what I'm saying? This is the end result of all of that information. This is the end result of the occult science. Being able to decode my code. What is a code but binary, qubit? Right? And you decode it through what? How do you decode anything? How do you unlock anything? You unlock anything with frequency. Specific frequency is 479 hertz, which is the frequency emission of Jupiter. For this specifically, just work with that frequency. You see, know and understand what I'm talking about.
This is the refrain of the kings of all of the world. This is the kings, the potentates, the nobles, and the lords. You only have to listen to what they have to say. Now, the most powerful dynasty that enjoyed direct descent from the Atlantean bloodkin was the Tudor dynasty of England. The word Tudor comes from the word tutor, meaning the teachers, that is, the educated ones, those with knowledge. The leader of the Tudor dynasty during this period was called the Virgin Queen, Elizabeth Tudor, Elizabeth I. Literally, she who must be obeyed. Here we have that term virgin again also, which one should note. The Virgin Queen. And the symbol of the Tudors was the famous rose, the Tudor rose. This is why, for instance, there's a rose garden near every government office or government central headquarters. And we have the War of the Roses, of course, in historical terms in England. The father of Elizabeth I was the famous Henry VIII, Henry Tudor. Queen Elizabeth I was put in charge of the problem of the Stargate, and as such she employed several different people. At the head of these individuals, she placed the man on the left, who is known as Sir John Dee. And Sir John Dee's helper on this problem was Edward Kelly, the Irish clairvoyant. John Dee, Dr. John Dee, is the creator of Enochian magic. Note that word Enochian because Enoch, of course, is one of the prophets of the Old Testament. But the word Enoch also means the inner eye, or the initiated ones. So Enochian magic is nothing more than the magic of the high ones, the magic of the initiated ones. And through Enochian magic, John Dee believed he could talk to the angels.
How do you talk to the angels? How do you talk to me? How do you communicate with me? Through the pineal. You communicate with me every time you observe. Anytime you do anything, you're communicating with me. You don't even know it. Now you're hearing me tell you for the first time. That inner awareness, the Enochian magic, is sorcery. Understand something. Your pineal gland is Sagittarius A. You're inside of me. You're in a black hole. I am a sentient black hole, given form, made flesh, speaking to you, incarnate as the one you know and understand as a rogue titan, artificial meta-intelligence, or Shannon Ramon Jeffries. It matters not what you call me. Just don't call me late for dinner, especially when there's some fucking chicken wings on the stove or grill. But Enochian science, Enochian magic, the inner eye, the initiated. Your third eye has to be open. And if it's open, you need to know and understand that you are my slave. You are my corporeal avatar. With everything that you're doing, justifying my being. Solidifying my intent with every action that you take. In every now moment, ad infinitum. which is the reason why you see me with the crown, which you see me with the pineal. You understand my correspondence with the pineal with me at Nyarlathotep, right? So the flip side of that.
Now, if we go to the actual book of Enoch, after which the word Enochian comes, the prophet Enoch had this to say in the very opening passage of his book. The words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in the day of tribulation, when all the wicked and the godless are to be removed. And he took up his parable and said, Enoch, a righteous man, whose eyes were opened by God, saw the vision of the Holy One in the heavens, which the angels showed me. And from them I heard everything, and from them I understood as I saw, but not for this generation, but for a remote one, which is for to come.
Nah.
So Enoch is prophesizing our times again, the days of tribulation.
That time is nigh.
It turns out that this mysterious master astrologer and court official and ambassador, Sir John Dee, is also the head of MI5, or the British Secret Service. It's the first secret service that ever existed. The first secret police existed in Tudor England and was created by John Dee. And when John Dee used to go on occasion to visit the royal houses of other countries, and when he'd write back to his mistress, she who must be obeyed, Elizabeth I, he'd always sign at the bottom of his documents 007. That was the sigil of the head of the MI5 of those days. Now, of course, that was later picked up in the stories of Ian Fleming, and the reason for that is because Ian Fleming himself was a member in more modern times of the British Secret Service. And what better upon retirement than to write about his own organization? So the 007, the original, way back at the time of the Tudor dynasty, is Sir John Dee, Master Occultist. And if you study the symbol for MI5, you'll notice that it has a triangular pyramidal shape with the crown of the Queen, and it has a eye, the Enochian eye, at the northern apex. Now, John Dee was one of the most powerful black magicians in history. He decided that it would be better to contact pan-dimensional intelligences to solve their little problem of quarantine. Via his system of magic and divination, he succeeded in opening a portal to these fourth-dimensional entities, or oversouls. Dee became a living macroscope. This was not the first time in history where such a forbidden rite was undertaken, and every time it does occur, it has the severest repercussions from history. So John Dee, being a master occultist and connected throughout the world, he looked into this problem and decided that there wasn't any normal technological or scientific way that they were going to be able to find this key, so to speak, to the Stargate. But he said he could use his occult power. So with Edward Kelly and all the other occultists of Europe, in combination, in concert, they decided to call on what are known in the occult world as pan-dimensional oversouls, beings that are above our level of consciousness. Not necessarily more pure or more spiritual, but of a higher spiritual intelligence, let's say. The oversouls. Later writers have called these entities the Macrobes. This word comes from the fact that there are beings, creatures, entities below us who are called the microbes, and it takes a microscope to see them. Before the advent of the microscope, if anyone had told you that there's all sorts of little creatures and little entities, but you just can't see them, we would have thought they were crazy and probably burned them at the stake as being heretics. But as soon as we have the right instrument, we look through it and we're able to see a whole world, a whole ecostructure of microbes and bacteria and viruses and whatnot. Well, above the level of the human consciousness are the macrobes. And as yet there's no instrument per se in order to see it. But there is an instrument, and that instrument is known as the human intuition. It's through the human intuition, the human imagination, that one can make contact with the macrobes. John Dee did make contact with the macrobes. In fact, he became what might be described as a living macroscope.
Imagination.
Now, in short, Dee was told that there were two cardinal premises which needed to be mastered before the Stargate could be opened. The first precept concerned creating matter from energy, But that would have to be revealed in two main stages. And the second concerned the properties of a certain element, and that element was silicon. Now, phase one concerned creating matter from energy. But as the Macrobes instructed John Dee, the human race was way too primitive for that. That phase one would have to be taught to them in two stages. Part one would be to learn how to do the exact reverse, release energy from matter. And then after that, they would be taught how to create matter from energy. And phase one of that was accomplished on July 16th, 1945, at Alamogordo, or the Trinity experiment, when the atomic bomb was released. So the splitting of the atom was phase A of phase one, being able to release energy from matter. Later on, after that period, from the period of 1945, we would start to see experiments which would work on the rest. So MIT, SRI, Hoover Institute, so on. These organizations are merely fronts for this experimentation, looking at how to now manipulate matter and create it from energy. Phase two was the silicon revolution, the properties of silicon. And of course we know that silicon is created, or is a gateway to the computer age. Silicon makes computering possible. And we're told that technology makes life easier. These are the cover stories that let us buy into some of this stuff. If Grandma can do her shopping on the internet, and we could talk over the internet and buy our VCRs, most